Hello gamers! MK is back with a video. I know it's been a while, you know me, gotta be a responsible adult. Let me tell you, we had Christmas, we had New Year's, Mikey had a bunch of weddings to go to, and a bunch of games because of Christmas to play, so needless to say, I got a little busy and I got a little sidetracked. And that's why I haven't put out a video in a while. But I'm here to rectify that today because right now I want to talk about two games and kind of give my second, casual gamer review. I have another one very similar to this. It's actually about the Monopoly game. It's only about 10 minutes long. It's kind of dumb and fun, but if you want to watch that, and if I can figure out how to work the YouTubes, I'll link it in the video. If not, you're welcome to go find it. It should be on my channel somewhere. So, I want to talk about these two games for one specific reason. I'm not picky, per se, but I do like to pick my games apart. And you can really tell the games that I fall in love with because I will touch absolutely nothing else until I beat it. This one, which is called Lilies, Quietus of the Night, is one of the games that I ended up playing like that, and it's because I absolutely fell in love with it, and it was just so much fun. And I'll talk a little bit about why I liked it so much. And then the other game is a game that everybody should know about. It's called Hollow Knight. It's a bit older of a game, and everybody who's anybody knows what this game is, and they're begging for the sequel already. So with Hollow Knight, I'm more just gonna toot the horn of why this game is so amazing and why everybody loves it. But that's not gonna be the only thing I do, because listening to me just rant and rave about a really good game would get boring. So I'm actually gonna compare these two. And because I love both these games, it's not really going to be a comparison of which one is better. It's more going to be a comparison of why I liked certain aspects of each game more than the other, and basically give you guys a glimpse into why I fell in love with these two completely different games. And why you guys should go out and experience them for yourselves, because they are, in one word, masterpieces. So, now that my long-winded introduction is over with, let me start with talking about Ender Lilies. This game I found because I had played Hollow Knight, and like I said, watched a YouTube video, and everybody said, oh, go play this game, it's just like Hollow Knight. And I did, and I loved it. The first love is just the combat. It was so smooth and so fluid, and it was really fun to play. And then the second one was the platforming. So both these games, Hollow Knight and Ender Lilies, are a Metroidvania style game with a little bit of roguelike in it. Oftentimes that gets compared to like the Soulsborne franchise. With Ender Lilies though, it was easier. So first off, like my first major point difference between the two is Ender Lilies is a lot more forgiving. The combat involves a lot of the similar things as Hollow Knight, platforming, using skills and your weapons against enemies, and then the enemy types change and get harder as the game goes on. But the attacks you use are these spirits that you kind of collect as you go throughout the game, and a lot of them you'll collect from fighting bosses, which I'll show you later in the video. But this is kind of where the game becomes easy. I probably only used 4 spirits the entire game. I would switch a few of them in and out depending on the boss I was fighting. But there are a few spirits you can get that just make this game a snore fest. Not that that takes away from the game, though, and for one good reason. In a comparison between the two games, if I wanted, like, white knuckle, sweat my bum off difficulty, go play Hollow Knight. If you want a game that is still challenging, but isn't going to ruin your day if you don't play, like, spot on, go play Ender Lilies. And, you know, I may have missed out a little bit because I didn't, you know, swap out and experiment a little more, but really I found, so kind of what you do is you have 6 slots divided between 2, like, groups, so 3 and 3, and in those 6 slots you can put any spirit you want. And then just because of my playstyle, I usually had a melee, a counter, and a like a range spirit, so that I can kind of combat any situation. And that lineup carried me throughout the whole game, and I almost didn't need to touch it at all. But the spirits are diverse enough that you really can play around with them and try out different like setups, and it allows you to play your style, whatever your style may be. And even though I used the same lineup, it in no means is an easy game. I died a lot, and you're probably going to die a lot, but you're not gonna die as much as Hollow Knight. And that's because the platforming is not as spot on as Hollow Knight. One of the things I noticed is Lily will catch the edge of ledges and will, like, pick herself up and over them. Whereas Hollow Knight will just, you have to get your jump spot on or you're gonna miss the platforms. So, I mean, it's just a little more forgiving, which, in all honesty, makes the game a little bit more fun. Because, like I said, you're not sweating, you're just playing, you're having a good time. One of the things that I absolutely loved, which has nothing to do with the gameplay, are all the little details. Like, it's so fun to watch your character, Lily, because she's just a little girl. She doesn't fight, she can't really do anything except purify the spirits after you beat them. So, if you watch, she, like, the devs made a lot of really cool, like, attentions to detail. Like, when your spirits attack, she'll, like, cover her eyes or like, brace behind them. There's a character later in the game that allows you to grab onto walls, and the spirit will show up and grab the wall, but it'll hold Lily in its arm, and she'll, like, be clutching onto him. And it's just, there's a ton of little details like that I noticed that just made this game really fun to, like, pay attention to and see what else I could find. Other little details, without going too far into spoilers, is as you play through the game, your whole purpose is to purify the blight that's taking over the world. And if you pay attention, your little girl becomes more and more corrupted. And again, it's just a little detail that they didn't need to put in there, but they did. And it just makes me love this game just that much more. Another thing that I loved were the bosses. They weren't all the same. They required different strategies, different skills. Like I said, even though I used probably the same 6 spirits the entire game, there were a couple of bosses that I actually needed to change my playstyle for. So even though a lot of them were very similar, there were a few that forced me to play different. The map is gorgeous. I really loved the music. In fact, the little village area probably has my favorite soundtrack too. The little chorus of voices that sing and the little twinkly piano, I just absolutely loved. There were a few levels, mainly this one that I'm in right now, the Witches whatever. It was a good song, but sometimes because the songs just repeat the whole time, they don't have any fluctuation, so it'll just play through and then start over and play through. Some of the songs can get a little annoying, but in all actuality, the soundtrack is great. The map is very diverse. You go from a broken down village to a blight-infested underwater, just evil, icky place to like a ruined castle. Like, it's so cool. And the final boss, I have a little bit of a complaint on. Again, without going into too many spoilers, I found him to be really easy. I did not die once. Well, okay, false. I did die once because I didn't want to fight him yet. I wanted to finish all the side stuff first and collect all the things because I'm a bit of a completionist, so I let him kill me so that I could go back to the bench and go back and get all the other stuff first. But like, in hindsight, I beat him 3 times and I didn't die once. So again, kind of goes into that same, the bosses aren't as hard as Hollow Knights, but still really, really fun. Which leads me into kind of my last point to get to, is the like character progression. So the like your character is connected to your level. There are these things called relics, which are basically like items. You can pick them up. They're hidden throughout the world, and some relics will like give you a power up. Some will give you extra spirit usage. Some will give you certain skills. You know, your basic items that kind of level up your character. But as you can see, top left of the screen right now, I'm still pretty early in the game because I didn't want to give out too many spoilers, but I'm level 11. And there are these little fragment pieces you can pick up that'll give you more health, but Lily is directly linked to your level, which kind of adds into the easiness of the game. Is unlike some of your roguelikes where if you don't have the right skills or whatever, the game becomes really, really hard. But because there's no, like, soul system, using the Dark Soul franchise as an example, when you die, you die. There's no, like, repercussion for it. You just go back to the last bench rested at, and you go and try again. But that's because your character levels up as you defeat enemies. She like absorbs the blight, like I mentioned before. And by the end of the game, I was level 99, and nothing could kill me because I had all the health. My strength stat was, connected to my level, so at 99, I was dealing massive damage to everything. And I mean, in all honesty, it did kind of take away a little bit of my enjoyment because by about, I don't know, I'd say a third of the way through the game, the difficulty really went down. But that was just because I was way too strong. But really, that's just a nitpick. In hindsight, this game has 98 great things about it and 2 things that just, make it less hard. Ooh. Anyway, before I make this video an hour and a half long as I rant about Ender Lilies and still have all of Hollow Knight to talk about, we're going to jump over now. But my final vote on Ender Lilies is a 10 out of 10. I 100% recommend anybody go play it, especially if you're just looking for a challenging game that isn't going to destroy your soul. Now, let's talk about the game that I wanted to talk about forever ago and never did, and I don't know why, but I love this game. I'm gonna just right off the bat, 10 out of 10. If I could vote it higher, which I can because it's my channel, but whatever, 12 out of 10, 15 out of 10, it doesn't matter. This game is amazing. I played it for 3 months straight. Didn't touch another game. I mean, I stopped playing Siege. I stopped playing the other games I was playing, and I was halfway through a lot of them. And this game was free on PlayStation Plus. I picked it up on a whim because I was like, oh, that looks interesting. I know nothing about this game, but that character looks really interesting. And, I think I've heard about Hollow Knight somewhere on my YouTube journey. And oh my gosh, from start to finish, this game just grabbed me by the cojones and did not let go. And it wasn't a nice cojones grab. It was misery. You will die so much playing this game. But, and I know that that's a huge but, because games that will kill you are a big turnoff to some people. But the just pure bliss and joy you feel when you get past a spot that was holding you back for so long, or a tricky platforming section that just you couldn't get through, or a boss, or whatever it is, this game is designed so well that it is just pure ecstasy and joy, and it is the best feeling when you win and when you get good. But introduction to Hollow Knight. I don't know if you can tell how much I love this game, but I'm gonna get off my rant horse here and actually talk about why I love this game so much. And I'm gonna start off the same way I started off Ender Lilies. So, combat and platforming. This game is a lot harder than Ender Lilies in this regard, for 2 reasons. First off, you do not get a little hand-holdy cheat for the platforming. You, where Lily would catch the edge of ledges and pick herself up, Hollow Knight does not do that. You have to be spot on perfect with your jumps and dashes and whatever else you're doing, because if you are even the tiniest bit off, you're gonna miss that platform and you're gonna die. And the combat is very much the same. Your character does not scale at all. He has his nail, which is his weapon, that little sword thing. And he has some spirit magic skills that you can use. And those are your only weapons. Where Lily had all those different spirits that she could kind of swap out and interchange. The only thing you can really change about your character in Hollow Knight are the charms you have. And you have a specific amount of slots you can use. And they do have a pretty good selection of charms, each with its own skill and ability. But really, that's it. Whatever charm you have attached is the only difference your character's going to have. You can upgrade your nail, so your attack strength does get a little stronger, which is helpful in the later game. But again, you don't have a level. Your character doesn't grow as the game gets on. So when the enemies and the bosses get harder, your character is basically the same as when you started, with maybe a few added power-ups. Which means the skill involved is all you. You beat the boss, because your character has not changed. And I mean, if we're talking about player skill running the game versus character level and strength stat, there's an entire area in this game where there is not a single enemy. It's called the White Palace. If you've played this game and you know, then you're in the same boat as me, and you probably shed about as many tears as I did, and probably sweated through about as many shirts as I did. If you don't know, you don't know. But if you do know, when you finally get to the top of the White Palace and you win and you get to leave, it is the happiest day of your life. Oh, I'm sorry. I better be careful. If I'm not careful, I'm going to just talk about this game for hours. Anyway, platforming, combat, 10 out of 10. You are going to die. And you're going to die a lot more than you did in Ender Lilies. But if you stick to it and you get good to the point where your thumbs start hurting, you're going to experience probably the one reason why I love this game so much, and it's just that bliss and that joy of coming out victorious in the end. Now, because this game is so pixel perfect almost in the combat and platforming, the map isn't as fancy as Ender Lilies. The art style is a lot more simple. The character designs are a lot more simple. In fact, all of the characters in this game are basically bugs or some variation of a bug. And your maps don't get super, different. It's all, that floating platforms with walls and enemies spread throughout. However, the map design is perfect for this game. There isn't a single moment where you feel cheated. Every platform is where it should be. Every enemy is in a spot where you're not going to have an easy time getting past it, but it is a fair, place. And the, different biomes, I watched a video the other day, and apparently this is one of the biggest maps of any Castlevania game, and you will go from a viney jungle to the utter hell that is the White Palace to a Colosseum. There's just so many different variations of the maps, and even though you're doing the same platform to platform jumping, it never feels stale, and the map is constantly changing. And if you're like me and you're a completionist, you'll want to explore every nook and cranny, and they make it worth your time. That was probably one thing I didn't like about Ender Lilies, now that I'm thinking about it, is the items you would pick up were almost always the same. It was the health fragment, or a little diary to read or something. There weren't too many reasons to go exploring except to find the blight that were in certain places to level up your spirits. But in Hollow Knight, the more you explore, the more you unveil about the world. You'll find little things that tell you more about the world. You'll find mini bosses and different charms, and you feel more rewarded for really exploring the map in Hollow Knight. Also, you kind of have to explore all of the map to get some of the other endings and to fight some of the other bosses. But anyway, long story short, the map design, even though it's a little more simple than Ender Lilies, is still just as good. There's also not a whole lot of music in this game. Music's really kind of just kept for the boss battles, which is totally awesome, because you get into some of these boss fights and they just play an absolute thumper of a song, and it'll just get your pulse racing. But it's not a detriment to the game. Just because it doesn't have any music, the ambient noises they make and how each of them relate to the different area you're in works just as well as if you had music playing. And then this is kind of a given with Metroid, this kind of style game, is the areas you can get into as the game progresses because you pick up power-ups and skills. I feel like Hollow Knight did a little bit better. Ender Lilies was still fun, and you definitely needed to explore more of the map if you wanted to 100% all of the collectibles, because there were a few places you could not get into at all if you didn't have certain skills. But Hollow Knight's was a little more straightforward in this regard. Like, there weren't any hidden... Like, I won't lie, I actually had to cheat and look up a few because I didn't realize you had to, like, chain different spirits together in order to access certain areas. And I honestly never would have guessed to do that without reading it. So, you know, I'm not perfect. I cheat every once in a while. Hollow Knight's, though, even though it was a little more simple and straightforward, I actually liked the progression of the skills. And on my second playthrough, I actually found out that you can almost go in any order you want. Because the first time I went right first and got certain skills that way, and then had to kind of circle back around. And in my second playthrough, I went left first, and I kind of thought, I'm like, there's no way, because I remember certain things being in my way, but as I played through it, I'm like, oh, I can actually go this way, and I ended up getting the Mantis Claws earlier than I did in the first playthrough, which, in my opinion, actually helps a lot. But the skills are just a little bit better in Hollow Knight, in my opinion. Now, I'm creeping up on half an hour, which is long for a video. I, probably should have done this video separately, one about Ender Lilies and one about Hollow Knight, but I couldn't split them up. The two games are so good, and they're so similar. I wanted to talk about them at the same time, so I'm going to finish my love rant about Hollow Knight talking about the bosses. There's like 42 of them, I think, and the only reason I haven't, completed the whole game and gotten the Platinum Trophy is because you have to go through the Pantheon of Hollow Nest, which is a DLC thing, and you have to boss rush all 40-whatever bosses, and do not fight Zote. Spoiler. Only spoiler I'm going to put in this game. I heard from a rumor, and I don't actually know. I'm going to find out for real after on this second playthrough I'm doing. But if you don't fight Zote, which is a character, that's all I'll say so I don't spoil everything, in the main game, he doesn't show up in the Pantheon. Now, mind that, I don't actually know 100%. I will find out and confirm. But he is my least favorite boss, and it's not because he's too hard or whatever. He doesn't fight like any of the other bosses. All of the other bosses have a mechanic and a pattern, and if you can figure out that mechanic and that pattern and get good at manipulating your character to fit that pattern, you'll win every boss fight. That's not going to be easy. You're going to die a lot, but there's an order to it, and if you figure it out, you will win. And these bosses are very well designed to make it a challenge. But Zote does not fight that way, and it bugs me so much. 30 seconds. Okay, I promised I wouldn't make this video too long. So, bosses are amazing. To finish off, to close out my ending statements, I recommend everybody go play these games. They probably won't be your cup of tea, especially if you don't like roguelikes, Souls-likes, Metroidvanias, because these two games are a very niche game. But if you give it a chance and you put in the time and effort and you do get good, these 2 games will probably become some of your favorite games, because in honesty, they are mine. And that is some pretty high praise, because I've been a gamer for a very long time, and I'm a bit of a nerd, and only a few games sit at the top of my list as like perfect games, and these 2 waltzed right up there and said, here I am taking this spot. So both games, 10 out of 10s, perfect scores for Mike. I recommend you play them. If you don't agree, let me know in the comment section below. If you have played these games, though, also comment in the section below, and let's have a conversation about them, because I honestly could talk about both these games for probably another 2 hours. But I won't, because I have a life, and I'm sure all of you have a life outside of YouTube. So if you have stuck around this long to the end of my video, I really appreciate it. So I love you guys. Thank you for supporting me. If you're new to the channel, hit that notification bell so you can be notified when I put out my videos. They're not as frequent, so that notification bell helps for when I do put videos out. If you're coming back, welcome back. You guys are the reason my channel's awesome. So don't forget to hit that like button. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your mom. Help me get a little more support on my channel, and I will see you guys next time. Stay awesome.